Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today. I'm Angela at Wilson Lee Interiors. Today I'm coming to you from my design studio. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how to create a beautiful terrarium out of succulents. So the main thing that you will need to create this project is, of course, some succulents. I have varying sizes here. And what I've tried to do is select different sizes and shapes so that I create a terrarium that is interesting from the exterior and also when you look at it from inside. So you'll need a terrarium or something that you can use as a terrarium. And if your terrarium will leak water, then you'll need this. I use a clear one because I don't like for anything to interfere with the overall look of the terrarium. So this clear one works well for me. You can use any kind of saucer for a plant that you would like to use. So mine is, so let's get started with how I'm going to create this. So the other things that I have are rocks and pebbles. Now these are a little fancier than your typical rocks that you find outside in your yard and what have you. I bought them at my garden center, and so this is the smaller version. And then these are the larger ones. They are beautiful. They are, I don't know if they're polished by a machine or polished by hand or how they're polished, but they're really pretty and shiny, and they will help make a really beautiful decorative terrarium for our plants. So I'm on a series of plants, and the reason why I'm on this series about plants is because they are so important to our overall health, mood, and well-being. And I first became aware of this several years ago when I was reading an article in Life magazine, I think it was. And in the magazine, they were talking about scientific studies that show that when plants or images of plants, not even the plant itself, but an image of a plant was put in mental health care facilities, and those patients who were exposed to the images of plants needed less medication than those who were not. So that was the proof I needed to become a better plant grower. There was a time when I was a little girl, my mom was an excellent gardener. I mean, she could make anything grow in the house, outside the house. That was a gift of hers. And in my young adult ages, I was just never good at growing plants. I think I just loved them too much and overwatered and did a lot of things. But I became dedicated to trying to figure out which plants work best in my environment, and I got better at it over time. And so now I really enjoy the process of growing plants and watching them. And as I walk around my house at all the different ones that I have, they make me happy. They improve my mood. Even on days when I'm having kind of a crummy day, you know how you've been there where like it seems like things are not quite going your way. And I walk around and I see a plant and I saw how it's changed and grow, and even the life it represents makes me happy. So I wanted to share some of that with you all today. So let's get going with making this gorgeous terrarium. I did a blog last week called 6 Amazing Ways to Decorate with Plants, and how to create a terrarium, and terrariums was number 6 on that list. So today we're doing the creation of one that we can all admire and show you how you can also do the same thing. All right, let's get going. The first thing I'm going to do, now these rocks are loud, and I'm going to do everything I can to not have it be so loud. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of the smaller pebbles to the bottom of my terrarium. And I'm going to arrange a little bit. And the reason I'm doing the smaller ones on the bottom is to help catch the soil and things. Once I put that on, this will help keep everything inside the terrarium, because my terrarium does have very small cracks and crevices in it, and that is a good thing so that air and nutrients get to the plant, but I don't want the soil to find its way out, and also water. So this is why I'm doing rocks on the bottom. And I chose these rocks for that reason, but I also wanted this to be decorative, so I chose a little bit more of a decorative stone, and it has, some of them are glass and some of them are more pebbles. So I put the smaller ones in, so now I'm going to move on to putting the larger ones in. And again, it's loud, so I'm going to try and muffle it best I can. You don't have to use two different sizes of pebbles, but I did because I think it will be interesting inside of the terrarium. So that is why I'm doing two different ones. So this is pretty already. It's pretty already. I mean, I could just take that and sit it someplace and be like, admire it, but I won't do that. I won't stop there. All right. So one thing you have to do is kind of eyeball it from here, from time to time, just to see if you like how it's shaping up. And so far, so good. So that was 2 cups of the larger rocks. So I'm just going to use the entire thing because I think it needs it. But you can play with it and do yours how you think it should be. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to purposely position my pebbles around so that I get the best impact visually through the glass. So are you all, I hope you're all able to see this pretty well. Okay, so now I'm going to start to add the soil. And the soil for succulents and cacti is a little different than your normal potting soil. So whenever you're at your gardening center, don't just pick up potting soil if you're doing succulents. Try to look at the one that's particularly for succulents and cacti. And I decided to wear a glove in this hand because I don't want to get dirt all under my nails right now. Okay, so this is what the soil looks like. And it's got more sand than your regular potting mix. And I'm sure some other things too that I'm not aware of, but that is just the obvious thing I noticed is that it's sandier than what you're used to for garden soil. So I'll start putting enough of that in there to house the little plantings. And I may have, probably could have used a smaller cup, but hey, you know. So you can see already how some of the soil is kind of going through the stones. And so I'm glad that I used a smaller layer of pebbles in the beginning to keep it from falling out of the terrarium. And I want to use enough soil so that the root of my succulents will be covered well and be right at home. So I'm just checking on the depth of the soil right now. Succulents, you don't water them very often, so you don't have to be concerned with whether or not this is something you can keep alive. The main thing that they'll need is they do like indirect bright light, but I found that the ones I have, they're not in the brightest spots in the house. They're just in areas near where a window is. And they tend to do well as long as you don't overwater. I think I'm going to use all of the soil. How about that? So I think that looks nice. And I've created a healthy growing place for them. And if you're just joining, today I'm creating a terrarium for some succulents. And if you want to know more about my list of 6 amazing ways to decorate with plants for your home, you can visit the blog at awilsonlee.com/designtblog. All right, so for my design or how my arrangement, I'm going to, and I don't know if I didn't know if I got too many of these or not. I'm just gonna kind of play it by ear. But I want to start with putting the taller succulent in the middle. And I just loosen the root bulb up just a little bit, not to disturb it a lot, just a tiny little bit, just to help them acclimate to their new environment. Now, getting my hand in here when there's a lot of plants is going to be interesting, so we'll just work around it. That was pretty simple. Wasn't bad. Okay, so I think the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add one of the smaller ones that would be, I think I'm going to I'm going to kind of do this like I want it to display, and how I want it to display is maybe larger ones, large in the middle, then medium on the sides, and then I'll do smaller ones along the perimeter is my plan. So again, I'm going to like create a little hole for it. Put it in there. I think I need to make it a little bigger, a little deeper. Okay, that works well. And you'll have to work your soil around it just to be sure that you get it positioned the way that you want. And don't be shy about moving things around if you don't like the way it's looking. Okay, and then I guess I'll go to the next. I'm gonna try this baby. This is an interesting texture. So I'm gonna put this guy next to this fluffier one, just because I like the way visually I like it. Now I have this particular succulent, and I think it looks more like a cross between a cactus and a succulent. And I have this at home already, and it's very hardy, and I've had good success with it. right, and then I'm going to go on to a smaller one, which has, this one has the most color of all of them. It has a little bit of a mauve and lavender coloration to it. So, and even in, I was telling you earlier about the soil and how I was using a plant, my potting soil in this particular case is particularly for succulents and cactus. So, and when I pulled these out of the pots that the grower put them in, it is very sandy. So you don't want to use a regular potting mix for cacti and succulents. And so do go ahead and buy another bag if you are, because some gardeners, we already have some succulent, some potting soil around the house, but for succulents and cacti, you don't want to use just whatever you already have on hand. You want to go ahead and invest in a little bit, in some soil that is just for them. So this is really shaping up nice. I'm liking this. It's pretty. So when I walk by this, I'm going to smile at this every day. I'm going to keep this one here in the store so that you all can come by and see how I'm doing taking care of it. Pressure. All right, so I'm going to do, I think I'm going to put this one over in the back just because I feel like I have a little bit of space there that I can squeeze that one into. I was talking to a client yesterday. I was doing a presentation with her, and in her design plan, I added a plant. But in her case, I did a faux plant because, one, she told me that she doesn't have time to take care of plants. And I wouldn't have let her get away with that, except for the fact that I knew that her area was very, very dark, and it happened to be a dining room, more of a formal dining room. And the faux plant I chose looks very lifelike. And last week on Design Tea, one of the questions that was asked was, can I use a faux plant and get some of the benefits, mental health benefits from using the faux plant instead of using a live plant? And in certain areas, I'll be okay with you doing that, because if studies show that art will help patients get some benefit from seeing just a piece of art, then I think faux plants are okay to do in certain areas. And in her design plan, I did a faux plant, and she was very happy with that because she has kids and events and things to do for them, and she really didn't want the pressure of having to keep up with the plant. But when I get to her family room, there's great light in there, and she will have no excuses. We will do a live plant in there, at least one, and so that will be great for both her household, and it won't be one that she has to spend a whole lot of time taking care of. This is really coming along. I'm quite happy with this so far. Okay, so I have one more to put in here. And if you notice, I'm really trying to be careful with how I do the arrangement as far as what the textures look like, the heights look like, and so on and so forth. These require very little water. So I picked these up from the nursery yesterday, and you can tell just how the soil on them just kind of flakes off, because they're not supposed to be sopping wet. Okay, so I'm gonna move around a little bit of my soil just to get it closer to the root system and try to make sure they all have a tiny little bit of breathing room. Those succulents like to be jammed in together, and when they grow rapidly, and they grow other parts of them that are very, very close and tight together. So I've arranged it all. So the thing I'm thinking about now is, do I want to put a little bit of pebbles around the top of this? So that's the thing about being a designer. We're always kind of pushing the limit a little bit and seeing like what else I can do to make this even more gorgeous. So I do have pebbles left. Maybe I should add a little. What do you think? As I pour. I'm just gonna see, and it will be a pain to get them out if I don't like it, but I'm just gonna try it out and see what I think. I think I like it. I'm not gonna do a ton of them, but just a little bit in some of the corners maybe. Just adds a little bit more texture. And it brings the bottom of the terrarium up to the top of the terrarium. This was a good move on my behalf, I must say. It's okay if a few fall into places where you hadn't intended them to be. So sometimes in some of my episodes, I do something called nailed it or failed it. I have to say that I have nailed this terrarium, y'all. It is pretty, and it is going to be a lot of fun to care for and watch it grow and thrive over time. And this terrarium is a good one. I don't want to try and pick it up by this handle because I'm not sure. Well, it works. But I will carry it by the base because it is now a planter. It's beautiful. Look at that! It's so pretty. Now, I'll tell you, like, sometimes certain members of my family, I won't name names, think that I'm a little bit crazy because I do sometimes talk to my plants, and certain members of my staff, though they haven't said so, I see like they give me this shady look sometimes, like she really is like losing it about these plants. But that's okay, because guess what? These plants make me smile, they brighten my mood, and they add beauty to anywhere you want to put them. In this case, this will be here in the boutique, and I will enjoy this, and so will all of my customers who come in. So there's my final project. A beautiful terrarium. It is the 6th way of 6 ways of how to beautify your space with plants. And this is a winner. I thank you all for joining me today on Design Tea, and we are live from my studio. Have a great rest of the day. Comment below, ask any questions that you may have concerning the creation of this terrarium, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.
We're good.
Okay. How long was I on?
Takes like 25 minutes.
Really?